The Point of View is sponsored by First National Bank. First National Bank, how can we help you? And Cowbell Coffee. Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it.
Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on television. Here on The Point of View, we pick the right topics, we get the right guests, ask them the relevant questions on issues that matter to you. We're live tonight with the government statistician with less than a month to go. Indeed, it's probably 3.5 weeks to go to census night. We'll be answering all the questions on Ghana's delayed 2020 census, which is now 2021. We'll be telling you how we are going to proceed when we come back. But don't forget, The Point of View is brought to you by First National Bank. How can we help you? And Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it. We'll be right back. So here are some numbers. We have 521 million cedis to be spent on the census. Then we are also looking at 31.5 million people as of mid-year, based on the projections. We have over 205,000 people who have applied to be trained for various aspects of the census work. But the numbers get more interesting. 131,739 localities, 51,000 enumeration areas, and over 11,000 trainers to work in 16 regions over the next few weeks to give us accurate numbers for our census. But there are controversial issues. Are we trying to discriminate against some groups because of the way we've broken down the different ethnicities? Are we spending too much money on the census? And really, what can we say about the whole idea of an efficient digital census? My guest is the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kwabena Inim. Prof, welcome to the show. Good evening.
Good evening, Bernard. Thank you for having me on the show.
You look bright. For somebody who has a census in 3 weeks, you should be looking tired and stressed. You look fine. It looks as if it's not a problem for you at all.
You need to manage it around these times. Otherwise, with the 6 weeks ahead of you, you're going to break down.
Is that the biggest undertaking for a statistician, a census?
Indeed, census undertaking is the biggest undertaking for every government statistician because it happens decennially, and any mistake that comes with it, you have to wait for 10 years to correct it. So unlike other surveys that occur within a relatively short period, census undertaking is indeed one of the biggest engagements of every government statistician.
When do you start planning for it?
In this case, for the 2021 PAC, the planning started in 2015, thinking that we were going to do it in 2020. So we had a 5-year period to plan towards the census. But let me mention that in other jurisdictions, census undertaking, that is also decennial, starts 1 year just after the current census. So in the case of the United Kingdom, for the 2020 census, planning started in 2011.
So what type of team are you working with? I tried to give some numbers. Over 200,000 people applied to do what?
Census undertaking, I must emphasize, it's indeed a process. As you rightly mentioned, we started 5 years ago, and the 206,000 that you're talking about has to do with the lowest level of engagement in terms of the frontline and field officers that we're going to use for the data collection. Ahead of that is an entire demarcation exercise where we take people around the entire country to ensure that the localities are divided into smaller geographical areas. Indeed, it was from the demarcation exercise that we arrived at the 51,916 enumeration areas that you talked about. And from these 51,916 enumeration areas, we've identified 11,021 supervisory areas, which is actually putting together between 3 and 6 enumeration areas for effective engagement. If you look at it from the perspective of training, for this particular census, we are doing training at 4 levels. We finish with training at the master level that we engage 103 people for that exercise in terms of those that we eventually selected. From there, we engaged 910 national trainers, starting with over 1,800 of them. We went through the process, and now we have 910 national trainers. And these national trainers went ahead to train 5,685 regional trainers. Okay. And also with that, we started with a pool of 8,775 regional trainers. So these are the different levels of trainings that we've done over the period, and currently the 5,685 regional trainers are engaging with 76,500 enumerators, that from which we're going to deploy 70,000 to the field.
70,000 enumerators to the field, working in 131,000 localities, which means that some localities will not have, it's not one locality per enumerator.
It's one enumerator per enumeration area. The way we structure the census engagement is we have 3 different types of enumeration areas. Enumeration areas that map one-on-one onto a locality. Enumeration areas that are more than localities, so you have one enumeration area having more than one locality, i.e. 2 or 3 localities, and the reverse is one big locality that we divide it into small enumeration areas. So we have 3 types of enumeration areas, and it is these enumeration areas that we put one enumerator in there. Let me emphasize that although we have 51,916 enumeration areas, we are deploying 70,000 because about 12,000 of them would be supervisors. The remaining, that is between the 51,000 and the 58,000, we target institutions such as Kolebu, such as University of Ghana, which will require a lot more people for the enumeration exercise, for the obvious reason that you have more people in these areas, so you need to increase the numbers there. The other reason why we increase the numbers is that with our type 3 localities, that is where we have one locality made up of quite a number of enumeration areas. These are areas that are pretty difficult to enumerate, so we've identified areas that we call them hard to reach areas, i.e. places that you need to cross rivers before you go there, the forest areas, and these are areas that you wouldn't want to put one person in that enumeration area for reasons such as the vastness of the area and security reasons and so on. So we do not necessarily map the one-on-one, but depending on the type of enumeration area, we do that.
Interesting. You are using some interesting terms. In election work, we have constituencies, and another we have electoral areas. In covering local assemblies, we have, of course, districts, and then you have local government areas. So when you say an enumeration area, what is it, and how different is that from a locality? You can use examples.
Yes, so as I indicated, we have enumeration areas that map onto one locality. So a locality like the ministries, it's a locality, and you want to see whether it contains certain number of people that it would allow for ease of enumeration. The reason why we call it enumeration is that this exercise has to be done over a 2-week period. So when we are doing the demarcation exercise, we ensure that we have 500 plus or minus 150 people in the area to facilitate the data collection exercise over that 2-week period. Because if you don't do that smaller geographical area demarcation, some people would finish ahead of time and some people would take them forever to do that. So the whole idea is operational purposes to ensure that the enumeration is done efficiently by one person over the period of time.
So I just wanted so for example, we are in Adabraka. Is Adabraka an enumeration area or a locality?
We work with enumeration areas, and once we have identified these enumeration areas, we look at the link between the enumeration area and the locality. So as I indicated, Adabraka would constitute a big locality, but given the population density in Adabraka, we're going to have different enumeration areas in Adabraka. As I said, we use the population as an indicator for the estimated population for subdividing the locality into an enumeration area. There are other places that you can have just 100 people making up a locality. In that place, they don't satisfy the 500 estimated population to get an enumeration area. So we're going to put together 3, 4, or 5 localities to get that estimated population of plus or minus 500 people in the area to call it an enumeration area. And that is what I refer to as the type 3 enumeration areas. And at Abraka is what we call a type 2 enumeration area, because it is one big locality that is housing more than one enumeration area. And our type 1 is where you have a locality that has a population of 500. So in that case, you can map on one-on-one basis a locality and an enumeration area.
All right, so viewers, I'm going to walk through some numbers again. This is the point of view. We're trying to break the process of the census down. So we've already given you some numbers. Okay, I'm going to go to another group of numbers. These are the dates. So we had 100 days to the census was somewhere in March. That day is past. Then if you look at the specific period for the census, it starts on 28th of this month, June. So 27th of June is the census night. The census itself is going to last from 28th June to 11th July. Now, 13th July, which is probably 11 days from today, is what they call listing of structures. So they have the 100 days, they have the 30 days. So 100 days was 22nd March, 30 days was 28th May. Then exactly 1 month from there is 28th June. So where you are on 28th June is actually, or they will ask you where you were on 27th June, which is where they will ask you questions around yourself. I'll come to that, the whole de jure versus de facto. Then, of course, 13th June, they'll map the structure. So let's just walk through this. Today is 2nd June. So your next big day is 13th June. And when you say you are listing structures, what does that mean?
The census undertaking has 2 key objectives. One is to ensure that we don't leave anyone behind, and the other is to ensure that the data that you collect is accurate. So with the first objective, which has to do with comprehensive complete data collection, we deploy different strategies to ensure that everyone is counted. And one of the major activities that we do to ensure this is done is preceding the enumeration exercise with a listing of structures.
Okay.
So listing of structures is essentially to go around the country, identify both completed and uncompleted structures that are habitable, and ensure that these structures are chalked and listed. What we mean by chalking the structure is physically putting numbers on the structures, and with the digital sensors taking the details of the structures, i.e. the type of structure, the use of the structure, the level of completion of the structure. And this gives us a sense of the people that live in the household ahead of the enumeration exercise. So the main reason why we do the listing exercise is to ensure that we've identified all structures that would help us do the enumeration. Over time,
so they'll come and mark our house?
Yes.
And write something on it?
Indeed.
Okay.
Starting with the 2021 population housing census, and then followed by the numbers in a sequential order.
So when I see somebody in front of my house on 13th June, will they be uniformed in a way, or they have to identify themselves, or they will just come and mark the house?
Every census official will be wearing a jacket, well inscripted on it as 2021 population housing census with Ghana Statistical Service on it. And in addition, every enumerator that visits a residence would hold an ID card. The ID card will identify the person with a picture, and behind the ID card we have contact numbers that if for some reason respondents would want to follow up to ensure that indeed this person is working for the census, that follow-up can be done. And we're setting up a call center purposely for this to ensure that residents are confident in whoever they are engaging with as far as the 2021 PAC data collection is concerned.
So that marking of structures is 13th June. Is it every day or just one day a job?
It's from 13 June, and we are anticipating that that exercise would run over a 7-day period.
Okay.
I say anticipating because once the 7 days elapse, we don't go straight into the enumeration exercise. For the first time in the history of our census undertaking, we are allowing for a 1-week window after the 7 days from the start of the listing and the start of enumeration. The reason why we're doing that is to minimize the mop-up that we've been doing in previous censuses. So we want to ensure that ahead of the enumeration exercise, every structure is chalked and listed. That gives us a sense of the volume of work ahead of us to enable us ensure that within the 14-day period, that is from the 28th of June to the 11th of July, enumeration of households will be done.
There are lots of concerns I will raise with you. There are three main controversial issues. The cost of the census, some groups saying that you haven't properly calibrated or identified them, and then the issue of politics. But before that, census night is 27th June. What does that mean?
27th June has been identified as the census night, principally to help us standardize and harmonize the responses that we are going to get from the enumeration exercise from the 9th of 27th to the 11th of July. And what I mean by harmonize and standardize is that over the 14-day period when we are doing the enumeration, some residences would get the opportunity to be interviewed on 28th, while others would be interviewed on the 11th of July. We would want all the questions to have a given reference period, which would allow us to relate the questions that are asked over the 14-day period too. The census night also aligns with the mode of counting that we do. So one has to do with the type of data collection, and the second one has to do with the mode of counting that we do. Our census undertaking, we call it a snapshot of the population on the 9th of 27th. Technically, it's not the midnight. Technically, it is the midnight, but operationally, it is 6 hours starting from the 27th of June 2021 to the 28th, and the 6 hours in the early hours of 28th. And why we do that is that people would be moving around that period, and that is why I earlier on indicated that one of the target groups for the counting are populations that are in transit, which we call the floating population. These are people that will not spend that night in either a household or in an institution, and we don't want to miss that population. So on that night, that is the 27th June 2021, when we are capturing the snapshot population of the country, we make sure those people are counted. And in addition, we've identified 5 other categories of people that we ensure that they are counted. These are people who spend the night in their households, people who spend the night in institutions, and for institutions, we have 2 categories of them. Institutions that when you are entering, you are aware of when you are going to exit, so we call it the stable institutions, and institutions that when you are at the time of entry, you are not sure when you're going to come out, and this has to do with the cells that people would spend, the hospitals that people are going to be there. And also we are looking at people with our diplomatic corps. These are special groups that we need to target during the exercise. And the last group are people who are going to spend 27 nights in hotels. So we've identified these 6 different groups to ensure that everyone is counted, and that is what we do with the census night.
Very interesting. So there are a couple of questions that people have been asking. So let's assume on census night and the day they come to my house, I am in Takoradi. So maybe I go and work in Takoradi Monday to Friday, and I come home over the weekend, and I live in Adenta. So if they come to Takoradi on a Thursday and they find me in Takoradi, will they say I live in Takoradi, or they'll ask me why I live, and I say, regularly I live in Adenta? How will they resolve that issue?
Indeed, I'm happy you use the word regularly. So we do the census, as I indicated, based on the snapshot population. So it's where you spent the night.
Not where I live regularly.
It's where you spent the night. So we go into the household and we try to get information on persons who spent the 27th night in the house. I'll be quick in saying that our instrument has been designed in such a way that we get information on people who also usually spend the night in a given household. So the population figures that we're going to put out there will give us the de facto population in terms of where you spent 27th night, be it your own household, be it you travel somewhere, you spend the night there, be it an institution, and that is what gives us the de facto population. And the instrument allows us to capture people who would spend the night at different places in terms of usual persons in the household. So we're going to get both the de facto and the de jure household.
Really? So if, for example, you go to the house in Adenta, the husband and the 3 children live there every day, but the wife travels to Kumasi for the weekdays, aren't you going to double count? How are you going to make sure that at the end of the day you don't count? Because she essentially has 2 houses. She lives in Kumasi Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday she's at Adenta. How are you going to make sure that you don't count her twice? Because you ask the Adenta people to, where is your wife or where is your mother? She's in Takoradi, she'll come back tomorrow. How are you going to resolve that?
So when we are when we are going by the de facto approach, the wife will not be counted.
Okay.
Because the wife will not spend the night in that household. So from the de facto approach, the wife will be counted wherever the wife would spend the night. Then from the de jure approach, we are asking, where do you usually stay? So in that case, the wife would be counted at Adenta and would not be counted at the other place. So we need to be careful when we are using the numbers, and the headline story for our population figures is based on the de facto approach.
Where you were on the night
on
of the
night
census.
of 27th, yes.
But is that not a problem? Because people want to know regional breakdown, and there are itinerant populations. So people want to know, for example, which region has the most people. Northeast is the smallest, South is the largest. If we have a lot of migrant workers from Northeast working in Accra on census night, are you going to ask them, those in Accra, where they are from? So you know that even though there are only maybe 300,000 people in Wale Wale that day, if you want to know how many people are from Wale Wale, it's 450,000. 150,000 are in Accra working. Is that the kind of data you're going to generate?
We always need to put whatever number that we are using for a policy discussion in a context.
Okay.
So in this case, if we are interested in the population based on the snapshot of the population, we are using the de facto. So for instance, if we want to think about pressure on social amenities, obviously what you want to look at is people who usually stay at a given place, because that is what is going to give you a sense on the pressure on the social amenities that you have in that particular area.
Okay.
So depending on what you are using the census data for, as is done internationally, you use the de facto approach for purposes of comparison, but to enhance extensive use of the data, we at Ghana Statistical Service find the need to provide both numbers in terms of the de facto population, and we go ahead and provide also the de jure population.
This is the point of view. We're trying to understand the census that's coming up in a few weeks. My guest is Professor Samuel Kobina Enim, the government statistician. There are three controversial issues with the census. The first one has to do with different groups of people. Some areas are not happy that, whereas for other groups, there were subdivisions of the ethnicity. For Ewe, they just had Ewe Raw. There have been two different statements issued on this. We'll work through that. We'll take his reaction to this. The second one, 521 million. Some people are saying, why do you need 500 million cedis to count 31 million people? It's too much. We'll try and understand what that amount to be spent for. And then there's also issues of politics. There are different groups who are claiming the political parties are infiltrating and they are using it to do their own NDC MPP matters. We'll resolve all of that when we come back. Plus your questions. Stay with us.
Up this morning.
Nothing wakes me up better than a cup of cowbell coffee. Delicious coffee aroma.
How can you forget your lines again?
I'm sorry, sir, just that it tastes really good.
Cowbell coffee.
Enjoy the delicious creamy coffee taste of 3-in-1 Cowbell coffee.
It's a beautiful day.
Waiting.
Cowbell coffee. Taste it, love it.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
It's a good day to meet every challenge. It's a good day to want more out of life. It's a good day to wish for it, work for it, go get it. Familiar taste, a delicious indulgent with a flavor you just can't hide. Refreshing energy, gives so much for so little. For a strong performance, you've come to the right place. Good Day Energy Drink. Why wait a minute to enjoy a good day when every second counts? Good Day Energy Drink keeps you going.
Excessive drinking can be detrimental to your health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
You wait for Euro 2020, Europe's grandest football championship with Europe's grandest players.
Oh, what a goal! Ronaldo!
It's not about where it's played, but how it's played. And when it's played on a stage this big by players this intense, it's anyone's game. UEFA Euro 2020. Get and stay connected to DSTV to watch UEFA Euro 2020 on dedicated SuperSport channels.
Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight we're trying to understand preparations for the 2021 Population and Housing Census and deal with some controversial issues that have emerged from that. My guest is Professor Samuel Enim, who is the government statistician. First issue, ethnic groups and their ethnicity codes. I've had not less than 6 people send me this in the past couple of weeks. So this is what they've been sending me. Apparently, you have some codes for various ethnic groups. And for certain groups like the Akan, there are subgroups like Agona Ahafo, Ahanta Ikwapim, Akwemu, etc., etc. When you come to the other groups in that list, Gadangbe, you have Ga Dangbe, which is Adan, Shai, Krobo, Sudoku, Ningo, and Pram. When you come to Ewe, there's only Ewe. There's no breakdown of Vedome, Anglon, Tong, and stuff. Then Guan, you have different groups there, Akbafu, Lolobi, Likpe, Avatim and Co. In fact, a group called the Center for Socio-Economic Studies issued a statement. I'm going to read it. It is dated 25th May. It says, the Center for Socio-Economic Studies notes with grave concern the plain ethnocentric and anti-development character of the enumeration instrument issued by the GSS for the 2021 Population and Housing Census. We note that the enumeration instrument provides for different codes for major ethnic groups in Ghana. We also note that the instrument provides sub-classification of subdivisions of the major ethnic groups and further assigns subcodes to these sub-ethnic divisions under broad categories. The information can be found in Appendix 4 of the instrument. However, the Ever Code 301, which we've shown, who are one of the major ethnic groups in Ghana, there is one group titled Evers with no subdivisions or subclassifications as the GSS has done for all other major ethnic groups. The conduct of the GSS in this regard is condemnable and renders the enumeration instrument disqualified for use in the 2021 census. They have other things they say. But this is very strong language. Did they copy this to you?
They did.
What was your reaction?
We put out a statement on how to educate the public on the ethnicity question for the 2021 Population Housing Census. And we started our statement by indicating clearly that one of the main angles by which you engage with statistics is your ability to compare statistics over time. Mm-hmm. If you generate statistics and you are unable to compare over time, it reduces its use. So we looked at the 2000 census, we looked at the 2010 census, and we looked at the 2021 Population Housing Census. Mm-hmm. And indeed, in all these two censuses ahead of the 2021 PAC, the mode of asking the question on ethnicity has been the same. Mm-hmm. Let me clarify that the issue that we are talking about here is not reflecting how the question is asked. It is looking at how responses are elicited. Mm-hmm. If we don't make that distinction, we're going to throw into this argument of whether it is desocializing or not. Mm-hmm. The question simply asks, what is the ethnic group of, let's say, Samuel Enim? Mm-hmm. So it is a self-identifying question. Mm-hmm. So if the enumerator approaches the respondent and poses the question, what is the ethnic group of Samuel Enim, it rests on the respondent to say that I am an Akan, I am a Guan, I am an Ewe. Over the period, the reason why we have not provided sub-ethnic groups for the Ewe major group, it's fairly standard. The census undertaking goes through a certain process. Once we start with the data collection, we do consultations and we do several trial censuses. Mm-hmm. So for this reason, ahead of the 2021 PAC, a number of consultations were done. Mm-hmm. We had comments from other major groups, i.e. the Grusi and the Mandis coming up, the Moli Dagmanis, coming up to say that they would want something such as other Moli Dagmani or other Grusi to be the variation that they want between the previous censuses end the current census. As at that time, we didn't see this coming up. Indeed, it didn't come up in 2000. It didn't come up in 2010. And also during the consultation period, this also did not come up. And over our trial censuses period, we did not find the reason to have such a subdivision of the ethnic group as we see for the other groups.
So just to be clear, in 2010, did the Ewe group have subgroups?
No. And in 2000, there were no subgroups.
So it was just Ewe?
Ewe. 2000, Ewe. 2010, and for the upcoming...
What about Mole Dagbani in 2000 and 2010? Was there subgroups?
There were subgroups. Indeed, it was only the Ewe subgroup that did not have a sub-ethnic group.
So historically, Ewes have just been categorized as one?
Yes. And there's a reason to that. And the reason is that with the other major ethnic groups, because of the severalty of sub-ethnic groups, people identify more with the sub-ethnic group than the major ethnic group. So, for instance, a Twi person will say, if you ask, what is your ethnic group? They are quick to say they are Twi rather than they are Akan. And these are the lessons that we
So, Achem, Ekwapem, Asante, Bono, Fante, Kwewu, rather than saying I'm an Akan.
They identify with the sub-ethnic group.
Interesting. If you can put up the groups again, I just wanted to run through. Just describe it. So, Ga, you have Ga, and then you have Dangbe. And then Dangbe, you sort of categorize into Ada, Shai, Krobo, Osudoku, Ningo, and Pram Pram, which are interesting subdivisions. For even Guan, you have so many. Nkomi, Wiasi, Juan, Nkonya, Gonja, Cherepon, Latte, Anumboso. So we are saying historically, these things have always been there.
So let me repeat it again. What we are talking about are the codes. They are not the question itself. So the question, as I indicated, is what is your ethnic group? These sub-ethnic groups, if you look at our 2000 main report, if you look at our 2010 main report, we never analyze data at the sub-ethnic group level.
Why not?
This is never going to change in 2021.
Why not? People want to know.
Because of the nuances associated with sub-ethnic groups.
Okay.
And what I mean by the nuances is that over the period, our system has become so cosmopolitan in such a way that people hardly identify with sub-ethnic groups. Even the major ethnic groups, it is a struggle for people to identify with it. So the distinctions are very thin.
So then why do you even have the codes there in the first place?
For ease of identification. And that is what I indicated earlier on.
What do you mean? So, for example, they ask you, what's your group? And you say, let's assume you are Guruma. And then you say you are Basari. Then they'll know that it's under Guruma. Is that why it's there? Or because if the person is, or people don't identify as Guruma, they identify as Basari. So then you have to then use the Basari to place him under Guruma.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
So it's just for ease of the data collection. And we're not going to do that. We're not going to change that in 2021.
There's another statement on the voter, on the everything, forgive me, which I find, I don't know if you've received it. This one is signed by Brian Sapati. And if you can put it up. So it's almost contrary to what, and the one I read originally was written by a different person. He's named Albert Wotogwe. He asked actually that you should immediately withdraw the instrument and address the concerns raised and provide further sub-clarifications under the EBE group. Now, Brian Sapati then sends another one, which then sort of says, no, we don't want you to do this. So he is, I don't know if you've received that. It's titled, as I've put on the screen, Restoration of Ewe only on the enumeration form. And they are basically saying, no, we are dedicated and loyal Ewes, sons and daughters of the Volta region across the globe, seeking and promoting peace, etc., etc. After making a broad consultation with leadership of the Volta region, the presidents of the regional house of chiefs, etc., etc., we are of the view that, essentially, let me just go through. We wish to apologize for the inconvenience caused in trying to subdivide the Ewes. There is no ethnic or sub-ethnic group, for example, known as Ebedome. It is an offensive label, just as the label Aigbe. I find that quite interesting. It is therefore a misnomer. The category Ebedome will affect the quality and reliability of the census data, as it is not one that persons identify themselves with. We are all Ewes, and not other Ewes also. We are therefore calling for immediate restoration of Ewe, as has been the case in previous censuses, signed by Brian Anku Sapati, and he copies the Volta Regional House of Chiefs President and Volta Regional Minister. Have you received this?
Yes, I've seen a copy of it.
So what are you going to do? Now so there are two competing statements on Evers?
Indeed, there are two contradictory statements on the issue of whether we need sub-ever ethnic groups or otherwise. But I want to reassure all persons that the position of Ghana Statistical Service remain unwavering in this instance. The sub-ethnic groups, as I indicated, is just to facilitate the data collection. So we had gone ahead to listen to the earlier concerns, and we had taken steps to ensure that this issue will be addressed at the level of data collection, that is the process of the data collection, but not the outcome. This is one of the advantages that you get when you are doing a digital census. So the programming is done in such a way that once I go to the respondent and the respondent indicates that, for instance, I'm an ANLO. Once you select ANLO, automatically it takes the ever category, and that is fine. On the other hand, if we come in there and instead of identifying with ANLO, you identified with ever, then we are thinking about the major group. So nothing is going to change as far as our procedures are concerned. This is simply because the focus was not to do analysis at the sub-ever or ethnic group level. The focus remains the same. We're going to do the analysis at the major ethnic group level. So from our point of view, this is not a challenge at all, but this is what we wanted to avoid, and that is why over the years, Ghana Statistical Service, based on consultations, have used ever as the major ethnic group without any
although there are people who believe that there are sub-ethnic groups, as the original writer said, there are Tong groups. I really don't know. The other question I have, though, is that I don't see certain groups. For example, Fulani. I've done some interviews on Fulani people. They are quite a sizable group. I've looked through all your categorizations. I see Akan, you have about 10 or 12 groups. Gadangbe 2, Even, there's 1. Guan, about 7 or 8. Guruma, a few. Then Mole Dagbani, and a few others. 4. I don't see Fulani there. I even see Grushi. Kasena, Mo, Sisala, Vagala, other Grushi like Tamplesi, Brifo, Yangala, Mande. And I'm surprised because Mande, Buzanga, and Wangara and Co, they are there. But Fulani is such a recognized group, but they are not on your list. Is it an oversight or what is the problem there?
Indeed, it is not an oversight. And I do not have the statistics offhand. The truth of the matter is once you exhaust these 8 major ethnic groups that we have, and in our questionnaire we have the other ethnic group. The other ethnic group is always less than 1%. So in your submission you talked about it being a sizable group of people. But to what extent would it offset the fact that about 99% of the categorization that we've done, that is the 8 major groups, are taken up once the entire population is exhausted?
For purely news value, in terms of even issues around herdsmen and some of the issues that have come up, would it not be sociologically interesting to know how many Fulani people we have in Ghana, even if they are less than 1%? Because you haven't counted, so you don't even know. So, I mean, is it not an oversight that for such, I think they are an important group. The second lady is a Fulani. My member of parliament in Adenta is a Fulani. The anchor of the show before I came on air, Umaru Sanda, is a Fulani. Obviously, they count, so they should be counted.
Let us set the records right. The ethnic group question has nothing to do with counting.
Okay.
Whoever spends the census night in the country would be counted, irrespective of your ethnic group, be it a Fulani or otherwise. So let us not mix the conversation around who will be counted and the question on ethnicity. The question on ethnicity is just to tell us the proportion of the major ethnic groups that we have. And as I indicated, once you run through the 8 major ethnic groups, you would have captured about 99% of the population. So that is what the focus is. I'm not in any way dismissing the fact that the question around the herdsmen and so on are not important. They are indeed important. And that is why Ghana Statistical Service will do census every 10 years. And in between censuses, we run surveys, which would allow us to do more targeted engagement with whatever issue that is affecting our development. So this is a census, and the focus of it primarily is to get the count of the population and some socio-demographic characteristics, economic characteristics.
But let me just ask you, if you go to Sanders' house and he says it's Fulani, He will be captured under other.
Yes.
That's difficult for me to take. I don't know. Because I feel that you should I thought in the other they would write the group. Instead of, so if, for example, if the enumerator comes to the person and says, Sanda, what is your ethnic group? And he says, I'm Fulani. Then you write it there so that you can then have the number. But if you just put it under other, that could be somebody who doesn't even know where he's from, in addition to somebody who's from maybe Mali, who came to Ghana, and you put them under other. So you are mischaracterizing them.
I wouldn't say we are mischaracterizing them because of the focus of the question. If we want to drill down to every other ethnic group in the country by spelling it out in the instrument, it's going to be unwieldy, and we cannot deal with it. And that is why
I can put it in an appendix. You can put it in an appendix. You can just let the enumerator write the name of the group, which is not on your original list. And then the appendix, you can say that other includes this. And you can give a sub-breakdown because this is something you do once every 10 years. And you're spending 500 million cedis on it. So, I don't know. I haven't done this before, but my layman mind is telling me that you could take that extra step just for accuracy of the information.
We can always do, which we do, which is other specify. Other specify.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
But the other specify, you put it in one category, as in, let's say, a code of, let's say, 901. Then, as you rightly said, then we're going to put all the other ones in there.
Yes.
But the point that I'm making is that, assuming all the other, you are able to capture 100 of them as falling under other, and you want to give each and every one of them a code, then you're going to run into the thousands because you are at 900. And it is for that reason. The reason why we put other there is not to quantify it per se, but to know the others that are in there so that over time we'll see whether that other category is increasing in number.
Okay.
Then we're going to get the actual numbers. And
let's deal with the other controversy. This story I saw on Star FM yesterday. GSS recruiting census agents on partisan lines. Savannah NDC. Permit me to read the story. It says the NDC in Savannah region has accused Ghana Statistical Service of recruiting agents for the upcoming census on party lines. The party has also alleged that some thugs have invaded training centers in the region to ransack the premises while demanding the removal of all participants believed to be members of the NDC. According to them, the exercise is meant to be a national one, assisted by the president. A press signed by the regional communications officer Malik Basintali read, quote, the NDC Savannah region has received numerous calls from well-meaning indigenes of the various districts, bringing to our notice extreme partisan recruitment of the population and housing census staff by the GSS for the upcoming 2021 population census. The party's attention has been brought to the invasion of some training centers by thugs belonging to the MPP, ransacking the premises and bringing to a halt the ongoing training with demand of having all persons believed to be affiliated to the NDC, any other party or a particular ethnic group expunged from the list before allowing it to continue. Have these things come to your attention?
They have.
This is serious. So what's your reaction? Have you reacted to this as you did for the ever one?
Let me precede your question by saying that this is not the only story that is out there.
There are others.
Indeed, there are others. As I speak to you today, our training at Trefohema in Lower Dentra was halted because a local group of people alleged to be MPP activists thought that our district census officer in there had recruited NDC people. So for that reason, they decided, or they have held up the training exercise that is going on.
We understand they beat up somebody.
Indeed, that happened, and currently the police is investigating.
They suspected that this is your district officer, was suspected to be NDC, and that he was recruiting only NDC people.
Yes.
So the MPP people too went to fire.
Correct.
So it's almost like opposite of the Savannah one.
Indeed. And as I indicated, there are quite a number of these things happening, and that is what informed. We preempted this, given the way things are being politicized in the country, and that is why we ensure that former statesmen would make strong statements on the fact that census undertaking is a non-partisan activity. Permit me to walk you through, if you don't mind, the processes that we went through in identifying the 76,500 people that we've put into classroom for training. We started this recruitment process 2 years ago, specifically somewhere in April 2019, where we developed an online recruitment platform. And over the period, people have expressed their interest to participate in the census. And indeed, we publicize this widely on different platforms, be it religious groups, political, government, to ensure that over the period that we are recruiting, we get people that can do the exercise. We officially brought a closure to the recruitment platform somewhere in the third week of April to give us time to go through the selection period. As at that time, we had over 233,000 people who were on our platform. We did screening of these 233,000 people to ensure that we have completeness of the documents that we have, and also we have the minimum criteria of persons having at least a senior high school to enable them to undertake this exercise. And we scaled the number down from 233,000 to 206,000. To ensure that the census achieves comprehensive, complete coverage, we recruit people from within the enumeration areas, indeed from within the localities, for two reasons. These are people that the respondents would identify with, and these are people who can speak the language. Okay. So it facilitates the data collection. So for that reason, with all the 206,000 applicants that we had, we looked at the districts and engaged the district coordinating directors to interview all of them. This is an exercise that went on over a 2-week period and superintended by all the district coordinating directors that we have in the country, and obviously with our district census officers helping with the process. They went through this and brought back to us at HQ the scores for the various interviews. We did that because we wanted to ensure that all the localities had been covered. As you said, we have over 131,000 localities and over 51,000 enumeration areas. So we ranked the scores and sent it back through our regional statisticians for the final communication of persons that we had selected. So nowhere in the process would we think about politicizing the activity. Why we were very particular about this is that from the onset, we didn't want to repeat data collection as an ad hoc activity. So for the first time, we thought we should get people to begin to build career from data collection. Because some of us started over 2 decades ago with data collection, and gradually we've gone through the process to be where we are now. So we see a lot of people taking this exercise seriously, having passion for it, and over time building their capacity. I deliberately brought this because this is the manual that our field officers would have to go through. As we speak now, the training...
What type of people are you recruiting? Are they teachers, are they university students, or just ordinary people?
We are recruiting all persons with our minimum qualification, which is senior high school, and have some experience in data collection.
And they have to read this in 2 weeks?
This is a 323-page document. We've made this document on our available on our website for the past 2 months, and all our applicants, that is the 233,000, we encourage them to do self-learning ahead of the 11 days of engagement to ensure that they acquaint themselves with the knowledge. Wow. The challenge that we are having at Ghana Statistical Service now, since we started the recruitment, is that with the influx of persons who did not apply online, and for some reason they wanted to participate in the activity, once they got there and they got a sense of the enormity of work, as we speak, we have certain districts
they are running away. They can't do the work. So you're saying that if the people are not qualified, they can't do the work because they have to read this?
Indeed.
Hey, but even me, this is heavy. And how long are you training them to read all of this?
For the in-person engagement, as I indicated, is running from the 31st of May, which has to do with the registration and collection of materials, to the 11th of July. Sorry, to the 11th of June. But
so that's just 2 weeks?
Yes.
To read all of this?
But bear in mind, this document has been made available to all of them in the past month. It has been on our website. And our hope is that they all went through it ahead of the in-person engagement.
Some of the interesting things here, if you don't know the day you are born, they can estimate your date of birth. So, for example, this is interesting. Queen Elizabeth visited Ghana in 1961. So if you don't know the year you were born, but you remember that around that time, Queen Elizabeth came to Ghana, you are 61 years old. Formal opening of Akosombo Dam, 1965. So if you don't know the year you were born, and remember that you were born around Akosombo Dam opening, you are 56 years old. Very interesting. We'll be back with your questions. There are quite a lot of them. This is the point of view. Stay with us.
In Africa, help is what we do. That is why we, at First National Bank, are relentlessly driven to provide real help to you. The passionate and courageous, the creators and the optimists. These are the entrepreneurs we support, the communities we uplift. It is because of you that real help is what we do. First National Bank. How can we help you?
Good Day Energy Drink keeps you going. Available in major supermarkets and shops near you. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to your health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advert is FDA approved.
Bonsoir, monsieur. Madame. Et voilà.
Babe, what is this?
This is the escargot. The foie gras. Oui.
Where did she go?
You pa one kasa who say oba say your fair eh?
It's been long since you ever felt like this.
Welcome to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Aquaba Magic. Welcome home to Aquaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight we're trying to talk about the census. It's happening on 28th June to 11th July. Let me just show you a quick advert they're running. This is the communication they are putting out for the census.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ikuya Anderson. I'm from the Ghana Statistical Service. I'm a census official, and I'm here to count you and your household members for the 2021 population and housing census.
Hey, you people, you come to count us all the time, but we get nothing out of this. Do I even have time?
Daddy, please take your ID card and letter in. It must be counted. It's very important.
You see, the data they collect is for various purposes. To know the total number of people in the country, the characteristics, housing conditions and stuff, to inform policy. The data in school.
The 2021 population and housing census will leave no one behind. The census night is 27th June. Counting of all persons who spend the census night in Ghana will be conducted from that night to 11th July. Before then, all structures will be assigned unique numbers and basic information collected on them and their occupants from 13th to 25th June. The 2021 population and housing census.
Oh, thank you. So that was a short clip. I have so many questions for you, Prof. Let me read a few. Good evening, Bernard. Please ask Prof why they brought OT and Volta regions to Valley View University campus. Couldn't they get any facility in the Volta region? Is this true?
Yes.
You couldn't get... Why were they training in Accra?
We need to put that particular training in context. This was our regional training, that is our national training our regional trainers.
Okay, so it's regional trainers.
This regional
not
training.
Not enumerators.
No.
Okay, that's fine. Bernard, the present administration is gradually destroying our social fabric by politicizing everything. Kweku from La Paz. Please, can you ask the government statistician how much trainees for the upcoming PhD are taking as allowance and transport, since it's a non-residential training for trainees? He doesn't add his name. They want to know how much you are paying them. For the training or for the field work? How much trainees are taking as allowance and transportation? I don't know. For trainers, for trainees. So I think field work, trainees. Yes, but are we talking about payment during the ongoing training or payment? I mean, I can speak to both. I don't know. Yes. The ongoing training, as a matter of principle, you don't pay people that you are bringing them together for them to undertake an exercise. It's like all of us looking for work, and we say... They need transport. Yes, so we give you an allowance of 30 Ghana cedis per day over the 11-day period. Ask him what he's doing about district directors of GES not allowing prospective trainees to participate in the census. Some district directors. You know, a lot of these people are supposed to be teachers. So some of them may want to take some time off to do this. But because of the track system, they are not being allowed. So what are you going to do about that? Will you write a letter for them or something?
No, we've been engaging the Ghana Education Service and, for that matter, the Minister for Education on this matter. What all of us should appreciate is that the COVID-19 has disrupted quite a number of things. So we need to find a balance to ensure that neither of the sectors, i.e. the data production sector or education sector, suffers for this. So this is a conversation that is occurring between the Ghana Education Service and the respective teachers who would want to participate in the census.
Can Prof assure the public whether the final census document will not carry the various sub-ethnic groups under the general account ethnic group to help allay the concerns of other groups who feel discriminated against? This is Christian.
I firmly assure all persons in Ghana that we're going to maintain the status quo. 2000, we didn't have the sub-ethnic groups. 2010, we didn't have the sub-ethnic groups. And for 2021 population housing census, the analysis will be done only at the major ethnic group level, so we wouldn't have the sub-ethnic groups.
Question. A lady I know who applied and was called for training got there to be told that her name has been excluded. My old friend who belongs to the other political party was called to join who never applied. The recruitment was based on party base. There's no name attached to the message. What's your comment?
No, I don't think we can really take such comments forward. If we get the substance of it and I know where it happened, we can definitely follow up. But once we get it this way, it's difficult to comment on. And I do appreciate the fact that a rigor process was instituted to ensure that we don't politicize the recruitment, which I've clearly explained on this platform. So if there are any incidences that did occur, we definitely would want to investigate and ensure that the right thing is done.
Good evening, Bernard. What does it mean to be given a PIN and a serial number as a shortlisted enumerator? Do I have to wait to be called by my district before attending the training, or with my access to my PIN, I'm automatically qualified for the training?
Having a PIN and a serial does not automatically make you a selected applicant. It's part of the registration process. As I indicated, we have an online platform, so once you go through the process, the system automatically would give you a PIN and a serial number. And that will be the basis for ensuring that we distinguish between those that we select during the screening period, those that we select during the in-person interview, and eventually those that we're going to select in the in-person training.
Good evening, Bernard. Please ask Prof. In 2010, I was not counted because I was in a boarding house, and they told me I'll be counted in the house. I asked my mom, and she said she didn't add me because the person said I'll be counted in the school.
So we do, as I indicated, we target people based on where they spent the 9. And in the households, we speak to the head of the household or any adult responsible person in the house. So it's possible that the mother was not aware, but they spoke to any adult, responsible adult in the household, and by that, all members of the household would be counted. But if indeed the person was in the boarding house at the time of the data collection, it will be part of our institutional population.
Let me end with this message. It's preposterous. How can he assume that in 2021, counting Fulanis or Buzangas is inconsequential? I'm a Fulani, my children are Fulani, and we are spending millions of cedis on this SMH. This person is not happy with you at all. You may want to reconsider that particular point. But thank you.
But let me go back to that point and emphasize that the counting is all persons in the country. We're going to count you irrespective of your ethnic grouping. It doesn't mean that we are excluding persons with a particular ethnic character.
You'll be counted. Professor Samuel Kobina Enim, thank you for your work. It's a national service. We appreciate it. We've been talking to the government statistician on the census. Well, 13th of June to 20th, you see them demarcating your houses. They are not coming to steal. They are coming to count. And, of course, from 28th to 11th July, the enumeration will happen. Hopefully, we'll get data for national development. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you for watching tonight's edition of the Point of View. The business dashboard is next. Stay with CTTV. Bye-bye.
The Point of View is sponsored by First National Bank. First National Bank, how can we help you? And Cowbell Coffee. Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it.